Alright folks, welcome back to the Path of Rage and this week's episode of our Star Citizen news. We got patch notes for the week to go over, including some additions and subtractions that were made, one of which is involving ladders and the kind you climb, not the kind you climb competitively. We have an update from Ali Brown as regarding the Star Engine and the Genesis version 5 update. A very welcome update on the current situation and cheating and exploiting that's been going on in Star Citizen during this free fly week. And finally, we have the brand new ship, the RSI Meteor, a brand new heavy fighter that is being dropped into the verse. We got a bit to go over, so let's get into it. First off, patch notes, and that is where we start on Tuesday last week when CIG dropped the latest patch for the 4.2.1 PTU, and one of the things that they included in this, as I said, was the ladders. Now, right here, as you can see here on the screen, they have successfully activated them, and then they decided to turn it off for the remainder of the PTU cycle because they're targeting a 4.3 release, as this says. It'll be reactivated when we get to that point. However, what they did do is they changed up the way ladders work. We saw this in a CitizenCon, and you can see it in the background footage that I've clipped out of that. Currently, the way ladders work, you kind of get vacuumed into them at times. Once you start moving up or down them, you can only go up or down. You can't look around. You can't jump off them. You can't do anything. You're completely helpless. In this update on Tuesday, they added in new traversal mechanics like they showed at CitizenCon, where you can look around while on the ladder, 180 degrees while moving, 355 degrees while stationary. You could enter or exit the ladder at the midpoint. You'd be able to jump off the ladders while looking in a direction, leaning to dodge debris, collision with another actor, or who knows what. Prevents traversal up a ladder so you won't be walking through each other going up and down it. The FPS camera required enter angle is what it says, and that's the preventing us from being vacuumed into it. The ladder exit into crouch in small spaces was updated, and how you join and you leave a ladder was updated. Now, when it comes to jumping off the ladder, as it says here in the bottom of this post I'm showing you in the on the screen, you can jump off the ladder in any direction by looking at it and jumping. If you just hit the jump button, then you'll just let go. You'll push slightly away from the ladder and you'll just fall to the ground. If you are stunned, incapacitated, overdosed, or dead, you will just drop from the ladder. On Thursday, they dropped another patch, which is when they disabled the ladders for 4.2.1, and they did a few more bug fixes and tweaking, as always. The only real difference mentioned in these patch notes is how they reworked trespassing around docked ships at space stations. Now, trespassing around these docked ships, they will teleport players who are not currently in the owner's party while the ship is docked, instead of within a certain radius of the station. So instead of just being put out into space, which has been happening a lot, or in the middle of the station, which I heard a couple people complaining about in chat in game one day, now they'll just appear somewhere within the ship. And finally, on Friday, they put out another update to 4.2.1 that also increased the escort mission action area to increase the area where players won't fail the mission by leaving. Again, there are other bug fixes and known items, but not a lot of changes in these patch notes. This is incremental. This was, I noticed, something that needed to be fixed. You could possibly fail the mission or start getting notifications that you were about to fail the mission while you were still fairly close, relatively, to the ship you were supposed to be escorting. I think it needed to be a bit bigger. They've increased it now. We'll see how it plays out, but that is a nice addition or a nice change. And the other thing they did for core tech was optimizations and sanity checks. for item stowing. Yeah, item stowing does not work nearly as often as it should. That is an absolute pain in the ass. It's one of the reasons I was so excited about the inventory update that we went over last week. The stowing items just is hit or miss. It really, really is. And you could be having a flawless game otherwise, unusual as that sounds, and absolutely not be able to do anything because you can't properly put down something or pick it up or stow it. Yeah, the fact that they're optimizing that is a big deal. Now, there is one patch due to come out today as of the filming this. Unfortunately, I'm back on afternoons, so I will have to go over it in next week's episode. Moving on. Next bit of news we have is several updates actually from Ali Brown, head of the graphics engine team, talking about Genesis and planet creation and answering a bunch of questions about that. And when asked about whether it was in tech preview or live, where they are with that, he said the following: planet creation aspect of Genesis is progressing well and is a major focus for myself and many others. I can't share a timeline for its release yet, but it'll likely start with one planet before rolling out to the others and more diverse biomes rather than a massive full replacement. This will allow us to roll it out sooner. We hope the rate of planet production after this point to increase significantly due to the massively streamlined art process. As for the specific tech features, most of the infrastructure is now done, but there are a few important visual features left, and then 2 major tech changes to achieve the desired performance, and then a bunch of smaller tasks. If I had to put a percentage done on it, maybe 75%, but it's incredibly hard to be precise. Now, they showed this off at CitizenCon, not last year, but the year before. They showed off the Star Engine, and that was what Genesis was all about, the creation tools. To see that this is coming along, as good as the planets look or whatnot, anything that can help them crank out these play spaces a bit more and eventually get to the 100 systems that they promised, like down the road, that would be nice to see. When the nightmare of driving tractor-wheeled vehicles on planets, especially rocky ones, was brought up, he said that they were going to be both more and less dense, but they'll follow natural erosion patterns of the landscape. So you'll get a lot of rocks on the hillsides and at the bottom of hills and mountains, but in the valleys it might be totally free of rocks. It'll be more about picking out a good path than just dodging randomly spawned rocks. And they also want to make it so that rocks in rocky areas are visible further away to give you more time to react. Now please add in a speed limiter to ground vehicles, CIG. When asked about roads and whether they're coming along or where they might be in the pipeline, they're not part of the current batch for version 5. They're going to be a big contender, but it'd be more likely that they'll base their research and development into weather-related features and more gameplay that can bring about. When asked about planet sizes, he said that there's no particularly hard limits on the current planet size and that they could increase them without too much effort, but they weren't sure it would make a better game just because it just increases travel time. And they have no intentions of increasing the size of planets in version 5 of Genesis at the moment, and they might completely reassess what sizes make the most sense as they go down the road, but right now they're sticking with what we have. He also gave us an update, not that it's going to apply to a whole hell of a lot of people, but regarding ultra widescreen and how the main menu still has the black bars on the right and left side of the screen. As an ultra wide user myself, this is something that has bugged me. At least the main game is in the right size, but my HUD is not. It's all squished into what would be the 1080p ratio for me. So I would like to see that outwards, but even with the main menu, and he says that's just because it still uses the ancient Flash scaleform rendering system. That's going to be updated and reworked with this new system, and he's going to make sure that widescreen support is on the requirement list. There's no point in them continuing to work on the code for that menu when they've scrapped it all together in the rest of the game. Like, yeah, I don't doubt that this is something they just want shot of. Now, a big concern that a lot of you have every right to be worried about was, as I mentioned, the recent run of absolute insanity when it came to cheating and hacking in the game during this last free fly event. People were duping items like they were going out of style, completely breaking the economy. There were videos everywhere of people, especially this one dude in a purple and white armor set, who was standing around other players, and you just watch as all of their gear would vanish off the other player. They even had cheats so bad that people were able to jump into a server, set off the cheat, and it would kill everyone on the server. And they wouldn't be able to respond. They'd be stuck in the incapacitated state. Even if they tried to go back to a hospital, it would cause infinite loading. There were immense amounts of cheating and problems going on this past week, and it really came to a head right after I made last week's episode. So when I became really aware of it, it was completely rampant. Well, Xylo has updated everyone on what was going on with that. A lot of people took the time, as they should, to report these, and they've basically said that this is because of the fact that they've taken a more relaxed approach to third-party tools. They allow for things like localization, VR integrations, other creative contributions. But now that the player base is growing, and there's a much larger player base, now we're starting to see the cheaters in. And in response to this, they're going to be tightening the anti-cheat measures, and they are perma-banning the people that they have caught cheating. They also made clear that even if you're just experimenting, acting out of curiosity, or you believe you're helping expose those issues by performing the exploits and the cheats, this can lead to serious consequences, including a permanent ban account ban. So don't do this. If you come across this, report it onto the Info Council or the Issue Council. This is what you should have been doing in the beginning, what everyone should do. Don't just keep doing it, even if you film it. Maybe the first time, if you come across it, you've got your session code up in the top, the QR code, and you've got your streaming software going on, record it and send them the video link, and then stop doing it so that you don't get banned. But the good news is that the people who have been doing this, especially the ones doing it maliciously, have been permanently banned, and they did a large wave of account bans. So hopefully this is going to get a lid on it. I also do know that on Saturday, I believe it was, I'd have to double check, but on Saturday the live environment went down for 3 hours to get an emergency hotfix, and I'm pretty certain that this is what was involved. I have not experienced any cheating since then, but I've gone entire entire play sessions in this game without discovering the cheaters, even when they were as rampant as possible. So it's depending on where you are, what time, what servers, but it has been happening, and CIG is reacting accordingly, so that's good news there. And finally, we have the RSI Meteor, a variant or cousin, I guess, to the RSI Mantis, which was the interdiction ship that people were able to purchase and fly around in. You could stop people from jumping into or out of Quantum. This is a heavy fighter variant. It actually comes with a bed. It comes with a little kitchenette, all that kind of stuff. You can actually kind of live and make this your daily driver, though it doesn't have cargo space. What it does have, though, is 2 size 5 bespoke ballistic cannons. It has 2 repeaters on it and 2 ballistic repeaters as well, giving it a fair bit of firepower. On top of that, however, it has a size 4 hardpoint on the belly that can also fit a size 4 missile rack to add even further to the firepower of this new heavy fighter. You can also put multiple versions of missiles in this, so you can go down to size 3s, size 2s, size 1s, and each one will give you more missiles than the class above it. It has a surprisingly spacious interior, especially considering it's a heavy fighter. When I was watching this video and they went up this elevator, I expected this to be a lot narrower. I don't know why. The ship also comes in multiple color palettes, the red one being my particular favorite. I don't know, it just looks so cool. That one and the Jared one, as they mentioned in this episode describing it. And I tell you this much, the cockpit on this thing really, really makes me wish that they would do a gold pass on the Constellation series of ships, because this is a fantastic cockpit screen. No bars right in the middle of your sight, unlike the Constellations. I would like that to, even out a bit. I want this design language to come to the Constellation. It even has a nice little touch where the weapon rack uses a button behind the cockpit seat and it rises up out of the floor from where it's been hidden the whole time. I like this. Instead of just having yet another rack on the wall, as always, like most ships do, this one's got this nice hidden little thing. It comes up like, the table, the altar opening up its gifts to you. All in all, it's a nice ship, and from what they've been talking about in the forums, while it will be a heavy hitter, it will be made up for in the fact that it's going to have slightly less defense than you might expect. It will still take some decent skills to use. You'll have to manage your shields properly. You'll have to make sure that you're not getting hit by the missiles, but overall, it looks like it's going to be a cool addition. We'll have to see how they balance it out. Keep in mind, this will come to the persistent universe down the road. You don't have to pay money for it, and I would suggest you don't right now, because as we've seen throughout the entire development cycle of this game, whenever a ship comes out, the stats that it launches with and the capabilities it has is never, ever what it ends up with down the road. So beware of that. Test it out when you get a chance. If there's a free fly, if you can rent it in game, wait a couple months till it's actually in another patch, and then try it out from there. But overall, it looks like a decent addition to the heavy fighters. I'm going to give it a try. I like the looks of it. I really do. And we'll have to see how it goes. In any case, folks, that is going to be the end of our episode for today. Like I said, slightly shorter, but I do not have a lot of time to record when I'm on afternoons. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found it informative and that I did a good job, and you'll give me a like and subscribe if you think so. Until next time, I've been Rage8 Games, and I will see you in the verse. Bye-bye.